What is the single most you'll understand it when you're older thing? That the quality rather than quantity of friends matters. I'd rather have 4 quarters in my pocket than 100 pennies. Good people aren't always nice people, and vice versa. Nice is not the same as kind. Nice is image management. Kind is caring about other people. Time off. Working crazy hours in my early 20s was nice, because I had a lot of money, but as I became older and more involved with my now and my friends, I realized that there's a balance. This drove me to look for a job with a little less pay, but far better hours, and now I'm happy. Don't work like a slave. You'll miss a lot of good things in life. Can we get McDonald's? No, we have food at home. My so is in his 30s, and I still have to tell him that lol. The sound of your joints exploding every time you get up. Man, I've been getting that since I was in high school. Sleep is no punishment, it's a gift. Yup. I used to dislike nap times when I was in kindergarten. Now that I'm older, I wish I could take a nap here and there during my work days. Something a little more lighthearted, but about half the jokes on cartoons like SpongeBob take on a whole new light once you've got more experience under your belt. You either die a SpongeBob or live long enough to become a Squidward. Why it's so annoying when you forget to take the chicken out of the freezer. I, too, will be ordering pizza tonight. Why elderly people in nursing homes who get no visitors are so lonely and filled with despair. Understanding why your parents wanted you to go play with the awkward kid, or why they were so keen to help you make friends. It's beyond annoying as a kid when your parents try to guide who make friends with, but most parents instinctually know that bad social habits start early, are hard to break, and can be a real burden when you are older. What parents sacrifice just so you can do something fun? Last night my husband and I sat in a line of cars for an hour and a half so our kids could see this cheesy drive-through light display in my town with Santa and other characters. 0/10 not worth it for us, but the kids loved it, and it was worth it to see them be able to do a fun Christmas activity during a pandemic. It made me think of how much my parents had to endure taking my brother and I to theme parks and stuff as a kid just to see us happy. I appreciate it infinitely more now. Literally getting older. Never thought much about when adults would say you're still young. Just enjoy it. I always wanted to be older because I was tired of HS, wanted to be out of college, etc. Now I want aging to slow down a bit. Hand-me-downs. I absolutely hated them, even though my grandma was a genius with them. Dyeing, artistic patches, new buttons. They just didn't last compared to the new clothes my older sister had. Then I had 3 boys in 6 years. I'm seriously grateful that my grandma tried so hard to make my hand-me-downs look good. I get it now. Friendships fading away. I remember my dad telling me all kinds of cool stories about things him and his friends did in the past. I even asked him, why aren't you still friends with these people? He really did basically say it's complicated. You'll understand when you're older. Even back then I remember thinking that's crazy. Me and my friends will always be friends. Sitting here now in my early 30s and it really hits home. Teenagers are just kids. It's something I quite literally was not capable of understanding until I wasn't a teenager anymore. When I was a teenager I felt so grown up. Why my parents would look disgusted eating/drinking anything that was sweet. I never understood why they watered down juice until now. Time. Wasting time. And how time flies. It's mid-deck, and I'm saying to myself what the heck, it's been 9 months of COVID, and I can't believe this year is almost over. As you age it seems to go faster and faster. When I was younger I felt like time just dragged on some days. The quiet, boring, simple times are the best. Everyone's fed, happy, healthy, chill, napping. These are the good times. Not helping every person who says they're in need. Some folks'll con your ass. It is possible to do everything right and still fail. Don't let it consume you. Pick up the pieces and move on. I had to learn this after a project that I was on for 3 years was sabotaged and canned. I did some amazing work and poured my life into that project. In the end I had nothing to show for it. It put me in a real slump for a few years. I'm still trying to pull myself out of it without becoming a cynical and jaded asshole. High school drama isn't important. Like, at all. In my teens and 20s, I just couldn't understand how my parents were so oblivious to celebrities. They were all over TV, their names and faces blasted on everything. It seemed everybody had some strong emotionally charged opinion about every major actor, musician, director, or tabloid magnate. What are they? Living under a rock? Didn't take long to find out why. Growing up, I didn't have a pre-existing list of these are famous people. I learned them as they came onto the scene. Eventually, though, they all dropped off the list one by one. The list kept updating. It's a lot harder knowing who is a household name when you also have to know who is last week's news. I was only 30 when I realized I have no idea who famous people are anymore. I just couldn't keep up at all. I've become like my parents. Don't know. And honestly, don't care. Celebrity worship, even as cursory as simply knowing their names, is a vapid, fruitless endeavor. Today's idols are tomorrow's trash. Not everybody is going to like you, even if you're a good person. Conversely, not everyone you like will be a good person. Had to learn that the hard way. How many people have a kid thinking it's going to fix their relationship? Socks are a very nice gift. Learning to live through loneliness as a child is a gift. Love. I thought I loved my wife when I was 20. Now I'm 50 and we have been together over 30 years. I realize now that when I was 20 I didn't understand what love is. I hope 70-year-old me looks back on 50-year-old me and says the same thing. That everything has shades of grey / is a sliding scale. It is so easy to understand the world as absolutes when young. Suddenly realizing in my late teens / early 20s that basically nothing is an absolute was a total revelation that really steers my understanding of everything and undoubtedly makes me a better person. There's really no going back, you really just get one shot with each hour you get. Just have to make your peace with the choice / path you took and keep it moving. King Triton. Ariel's dad was right. She was just a child, and she was not in love with the random prince she saw for all of 30 seconds. Why the pet hamster changed color. Press F for biscuit. F. Now give me biscuit. Money. There was a reason that you didn't get those shoes, the PS5, a new shiny car, etc. Maintaining a home and keeping the family fed is expensive. On a positive note, there is a freedom to being a grown-up that I didn't grasp as a kid. Just last week, a 4th grader posited the question, "What's it like to be grown up?" My co-teacher and I started to laugh and I said, "It got its up and downs." Kid asked, "Is it boring to pay bills?" I replied, "Well, that's definitely a down, and it's not really boring." I searched in my head for something positive and came up with, "But you know what? I can go to Arby's pretty much any time I want. So there's that." And thus erupted a Zoom screen full of kids in wonder that yes, as a grown up, you may be able to get Arby's pretty much whenever you want. I even said something like, "You'll understand when you're a grown up and have a car, but it's pretty cool." And you know what? It is pretty cool. Things simply just don't work out. A job, a partner, sometimes family, and friends. The most well-intended people just don't always work out. If the door is closed, you should always knock. The importance of having good insurance and how expensive it can be without getting it from job benefits. You don't have to be happy all the time. Not all people have your best interests at heart. People will take advantage of your kindness and compassion. And finally, that everyone else's problems are not your own. You can try to help people, but they have to want to help themselves. A parent's love for their child. A year after my granddaughter was born, my daughter was telling me how wonderful her toddler is, how smart she is, and just all around lovable she is. She then said, "I don't think I could ever love anyone as much as I love my daughter." Then she paused for a moment as realization washed over her face. "Dad, is this how much you love me?" Bingo. Kiddo. Now you know. When I was a kid, I watched my mom and dad refuse to let my grandparents pay for something, or pay them back for something. I thought that was silly as a kid, and said I wouldn't do that. But as an adult, I find myself always doing the same thing I said I never would. Chasing orgasms gets old. You really want to spend your time with someone you like talking to. Sex tip. Chase orgasms together with someone you love and talk about it. I'm older and still don't understand things that I think I should. Regret. It is difficult to keep perspective without it being taught as a skill. All these comments about money and managing your finances make me kinda sad, considering I was the opposite. I had to mature at a really young age because of my deadbeat waste of space father milking my mother's purse dry. She had nobody to vent to, and very soon I became her 8 years old. I don't blame her. She was struggling and needed someone, and if anything, we are as close as we are now because of it. But now I'm left with constant anxiety whenever she's a little low for the month, and willingly let her pile her issues onto me, even if I regret it after. I wish more than anything I could have had just a few more years to be a normal child. Oh well. The power of your peers. One of the gifts of middle age is you finally stop caring so much about what everyone else thinks of what you're doing, largely because you realize other people no longer care, if they ever did in the first place. Once that veil lifts, everything feels different. But until then, you really have no idea how much what you decide or want has had to do with pleasing the people around you, trying to fit in with them, or at least avoiding their ire. When I was a kid, my dad and I had a tradition every week of going to the video store and renting a movie or two to watch together. It was one of my favorite things to do, but I remember I used to get really upset at him because every single time we'd actually start to watch the movie, he would fall asleep. It wasn't until I was older that I realized that the reason he would fall asleep was because he was exhausted from working two very physically demanding jobs to try and give me the best life he possibly could. On top of that, even though he was tired, he still made an effort to try and start a little tradition with me and spend time with me. Those memories of me having to nudge my dad awake are so great in my eyes, because they made me realize what a caring and hard-working man he was and still is. Health issues. I know I've been genetically lucky, but after 20, random speak just starts happening for no reason. It's like Daryl developing a soy allergy at 35. Who develops a soy allergy at 35? How stupid you are right now. People tend to think they are pretty knowledgeable and wise at any given moment in their life. But then you age a decade and look back and think, wow, I was such an idiot. How did I not realize how much of a douchebag I was being? And other such things. Then you'll think, I'm glad I'm better now. Now I'm pretty knowledgeable and wise. Then another decade passes. Mom and dad die eventually. Share what's going on in your life. Call them. Visit often. When they die, you will wish you did. Love. When you're young, you have this delusional view of what love should be, especially because the sample size of it had been given unconditionally up until your first heartbreak. Turns out you've got to earn it differently for every prospect you meet. Your version of the love you can give is not for everyone. The value of discipline. You might have all the brains or potential in the world, but without discipline, everything you hold dear to you, all the smarts that you used to validate yourself as an excuse, is snatched away within the blink of an eye. It might have been cool to embody the character of that stereotypical lazy whiz kid who gets things done when needed when you were younger, perhaps as an adolescent, as you'd have liked to think that you'd pull it off the same. Years pass by, the laziness, the lack of effective principle starts to take a toll unless reversed. Incompetency sets in. Lethargy is a hobby. Time management is a joke. Priorities are misplaced. Personal relationships are ruined. And perhaps your lack of discipline might also spiral you into substance abuse, not drugs in general or other addictions, kickstarting a vicious cycle of pain and suffering. All of the times young people cringe at older people embarrassing themselves. Once you realize the futility of keeping up with societal pressures, cringing at others becomes a hallmark of immaturity. Phases. There is nothing more patronizing or even insulting than someone older say what you think or are doing is some sort of phase you are going through, that you'll change your mind later, etc. No one should ever do that. However, when you approach middle age, you realize just how many times in your life you thought you had it all figured out, even if it meant you had decided nothing makes sense and you have no idea who you really are, and then totally changed your mind, or at least amended your philosophies.